Hey everyone, in this episode we'll be taking a look at the movie Breakthrough. We'll be discussing the portrayal of the real life events and Chrissy Metz performance. This is episode 138 of the Reel-ists podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Oscar.
Hello, I'm Donnie.
And we have a producer here, Ruben, as well. Hello, he says. And welcome to the Reel-ists podcast. Thanks you for joining us in this episode. If this is your first time listening to us, we hope you enjoy. We hope you laugh, you cry, you listen to us.
You reminisce.
We hope it's a picture perfect episode for you. If you're a returning listener, you already know what the deal is. You already know. You cool. You in the club.
We got you.
Just leave us some feedback at this point. If you are able to, we do appreciate any kind of feedback on our Apple Podcast. I want to say platform, but that's not the word. Just on Apple Podcasts. Or on YouTube. You can leave comments per the episodes. But yeah, social media as well. We are there. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Team Reel-ists, that's Team Reel-ists, no dash. So we just want to get that going for us, just so we can know what's working, what's not working. Maybe more Oscar, more Donnie, less Oscar, less Donnie. I don't know.
Oh.
Let us. What if everyone's just
if
like,
you just want Donnie? Just...
no, do a solo episode. We'll see how the ratings go for that. But yes, we just want to kind of get that feedback, that helpful feedback. But moving on, today's episode is going to be Breakthrough. So this is going to be the episode we're going to talk about. So if you haven't seen it, definitely pause the episode, go watch it, come back, and then listen and see if we have common thoughts. And if not, we'd be more than happy to hear what opposing thoughts you've had from what we have today. But let's go into the spoiler discussion of Breakthrough. Donnie, start us off with your quick thoughts.
Yeah, well, I thought Breakthrough was a good movie. I think some people might call it like a little cheesy. And I think just the fact that it's like a faith-based film, I feel like a lot of those already kind of have a reputation for being a little cheesy, a little melodramatic. This one had its moments, but it also was, I'd say, moving. Not like the most moving film of all time or anything, but it definitely had its sentimental moments. And it's based on a true story. So of this, 14-year-old kid who was, drowned, who fell through like icy water and was underwater for like 15 minutes and unresponsive. So it is a very emotionally charged story already. And I think it was a good retelling, I guess you could say.
It was one of those, it's a true story, but the movie was based off of the book of the true story.
Mm-hmm. That's like over my head.
Apparently,
it's a lot to take in.
You couldn't go to the direct sources and just be like, tell us your story.
Yeah, tell us what happened. No, but yeah, I mean, I think overall it was like a good film. I think it's, it's full of hope and optimism and like an encouraging story. And, but yeah, I thought it was good. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. So for those that are just unfamiliar with this movie, this is Breakthrough, which is about a 14-year-old son who drowns in a lake, and a faithful mother prays for him to come back from the brink of death and be healed. This movie does star Chrissy Metz, Topher Grace, Josh Lucas, Marcel Ruiz, Dennis Haysbert, and Mike Coulter. Those are our leading cast. Directed by Roxanne Dawson. So... I don't know in terms of who the director is, but the cast are very well familiar from
yeah,
most
it
part.
was a pretty like I was gonna say star-studded cast. I mean, but they're like they're known actors. I was surprised, because a lot of like these kind of films, it's like you have people like they're low budget, so they hire like actors you've never even seen or heard of,
Possibly
or it's their first film.
Yeah.
So I was shocked that we were getting this kind of film with these actors. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was really a nice way to kind of support these actors as well if you enjoy them in one of those shows that they did. Mm-hmm. Although I don't think Topher Grace is currently doing TV, but he did that 70s show.
But if you like that 70s show.
Right. You guys can kind of support it. So for myself, this movie was one of those that it was a very interesting story. And I know they said it a few times in the film that like the science of then the medicine part of it couldn't really explain how, this mom's son was able to, recover and make it after being underwater for like 20 minutes and, not having a heartbeat for 40 minutes or something like that. So I know that those are like things that happen in times, happen in life where you're just like, I don't know how that happens. The odds were against me. Everyone has a different version of that in their own life. Maybe not as big as almost dying, but it was one of those that it was nice to kind of just see this story of how one person, is able to go through this and make it through. And I mean, based off of how the little titles at the end of the movie describe, like on a successful path. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was just a really overall nice story. As a movie itself, it did lean on a little bit too much of kind of pro religion into the degree of like, if you believe it may change things in your life, and to people that that's their own decision to make, absolutely. But I feel like this movie would have worked better as just more of, we're not saying that prayers is what made this that saved this boy's life, but just more as it was a miracle, and we are just people that believe in that. Like that, I think that would have been fine. But I think this movie did a little bit more on the, like, if you pray and if the city prays, and then things can happen. And I feel like that kind of just makes it uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, I guess that was the lens they wanted to tell it through. If that was what the book was about, right?
Right. Which is fine. But I think that just, again, it's fine for them to believe that, their prayers is what, was the solution to that. When science couldn't explain it, I absolutely think there's no problem with that. But I think the movie would have been on a easier playing field if it was just more up to interpretations, right? Rather than like every time they mentioned praying, that's when the good thing happened. And it's just one of those. But yeah, so I think that it's a really good story. It's a really nice story to hear. It's the son that was adopted and, had his own, inner conflicts, being a teenager, having that, abandonment. I'm not sure if, the story was accurate in terms of like, this just happened to be when he was also doing a paper on his family tree.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I could see that part being just written in for the film.
Yeah.
Like,
to explain that he was adopted.
Yeah.
I don't know if all that detail matched up, but it was, it was really nice to see his life. He saw his life differently after this experience. Mm-hmm. And it was also one of those things where, I mean, we see Grey's Anatomy. You see all the episodes, but for me, it's always like one of those interesting medical kind of situations of like, what do the doctors have to do? What can they do? What.
And that was one of the things I did like about the movie too. Like, they spent a good amount of time on with the doctors and like the rescue itself, the firefighters and EMTs rescuing him, the doctors and nurses trying to stabilize, or trying to get him to breathe and trying to get his heart to start in general. But after that, trying to stabilize him, like I really was glad that they focused on that too, and it wasn't just like, oh, he drowned, and then and then we saw a cut to him in the hospital room, like unconscious or something.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they
right. Those are the things I think makes it interesting for an audience, because we are able to kind of follow along with what they're trying to do. Because I know when movies and shows, they don't really explain the science behind the hospital scenes. They're just like, we don't have a heartbeat, and then all of a sudden they have a heartbeat, but you see like the doctors like pretending to do stuff. Sometimes they try to like slide under with like, oh, we're not going to go into the terminology of what's going on. But this one was willing to kind of say, let's try this. Let's try that. Okay, so this situation is, he might be in this condition if he does ever wake and things like that. So it was nice to be informed of what the outlook was supposed to be and then what it actually came. So that was, really informative to have that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie does a great job of making you care for the family. I think the mom, Chrissy Metz did an amazing job in being able to really love your son, and the same thing for us to really see that she loves her son. I thought it was really awesome. I think she did it convincingly. I know there were some parts where the character made some decisions that were questionable, like when she was lashing out at people that were just like trying to be realistic at moments of like what might be the outcome. But I still think like the moments when she was with her, her son, and the time that she was alone, grieving, like you can really see that this was, I mean, the character, like the actress, Chrissy, did a great job of really portraying that emotions.
Yeah, she did. She's a really good crier.
Yeah.
Like a really good crier.
I think that scene, when he was first in the hospital and they were like
pronouncing him dead.
Right there, pronouncing him dead. Yeah. And she was just like trying to grasp. It was a really great scene because you kind of see the realistic, like the realistic tendency of like what you would do when you see a loved one almost practically dead to some degree. You first have that like, okay, you have that shock. You're not immediately crying, not like you're just bursting into tears. You have that shock.
It's like disbelief.
Yeah,
almost.
you're trying to just grasp, and maybe there's like a glimmer of hope, and then once you start to settle in that it's not happening, that's where it did the tears. Very, very well done scene. So
yeah.
The one thing that I did want to ask you in terms of this was the situation of the school. That was a big part. I know they said it was a local community and it was a small community that you knew each other, you knew everyone. But did you feel like they did a good job of making it feel real, or did you feel like they kind of did a little too much on the movie magic and kumbaya, everyone was on the same page?
It felt pretty movie magic a little bit, and I said this to you like before. I don't know, I don't know if that school was like that because it is such a close knit community, and probably all their parents go to church, so they probably all know each other. Maybe it is really like that, but I'm like thinking back to like my middle school and high school. I'm like, there's no way like we would be like that, all kumbaya, or like. I mean, even, and I don't, and that's another thing, I guess we didn't need to find out if it was like a Christian school or not, because like the whole scene when the auditorium with everyone praying and all the whole basketball team praying, I'm like, they probably wouldn't even allow you to do that in school, like, or at least,
I can understand if it was like he did pass away and did a moment of silence, that would make sense. But yeah, the prayers and stuff. I mean, it's great visuals, but it's kind of just.
Yeah, it's great visuals and it's moving, but it's just like, is this. Are you guys making this up? Like, like when have I seen this or heard of this? So,
and,
I mean,
and it's fair to question. I think we're not necessarily saying would never happen, but I think it's a fair question to say, did this really happen? Or is this just kind of like maybe a good amount of students were feeling this way, but they over exaggerated and said the school was feeling this way. So I could,
and I speaking of the school, I really like that, because it could have been so easy for this whole film to just be so over the top, like cheesy and so optimistic and like almost like a Hallmark film,
yeah,
or like on the Hallmark Channel. But I like when he did come back to school that he was getting some negative feedback from some of his classmates, and and there were the scene when his teacher was like, "Why do you think you survived?" And my husband died of an aneurysm 2 years ago or whatever, and it was like, whoa, like that's insane. It's like crazy that a teacher would be kind of addressing a student in that manner with something so deep and heavy and so personal. But I really like that they depicted that, because I'm sure. Like I know his whole school was praying for him and hoping that he survived, but at the end of the day too, like not every kid is a good kid. You have some jerks at school, some bullies, and you probably have some people that are going to say something about anything you go through, especially because everybody knew what his situation, everybody knew what had happened to him. So of course not everyone was going to be so like, oh, I'm so glad that you made it, good job, John. Like there's going to be some smart asses.
Absolutely. I think that was a nice touch to kind of show that. It was kind of one of those moments where you thought that maybe the character was going to make a bad decision because he was feeling that way, but luckily he did not, and it was just one of those that he just had to kind of see from the outside world, and how some people have just have those questions that they wish they can get the answer to, and that's why the teacher asked that question. It wasn't more so that you're gonna give me the answer. It was just more of an open question, and
right,
you know, you
just searching for answers and you know, trying to make sense of what happened to her and her husband, I guess.
Because I mean, that's just, you know, that just is a common thing where, you know, you then expect that this person is supposed to do something, or is supposed to be, you know, the light, I guess, you know, and is going to make a change, or is going to get everyone on the same page. Like that was just more of like, it was a miracle that he was able to survive that, and not more so he's a savior, or he's, you know, he's what, you know, any kind of religious sign of, oh, that's a positive thing. That means, you know, we're not cursed or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like, I could see why people could think that, but I'm happy that it did at least showcase that.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things that also was surprising to me was that kind of, I don't want to say attitude, but there was a few characters that were being kind of on the realistic / unbelievers. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really well done, where it wasn't like they were being shamed either.
Yeah.
I think it was respecting that, you know, some people that, you know, believe in the science just are going by the stats, you know. And there are some people that don't believe in God, but yet they experience this, and then they start having those questions themselves, questions that they wish can get answered.
Yeah.
So I thought it was nice that it also was respecting those kinds of beliefs or those mindsets that people have, because yes, everyone is different. You know, no one's going to have the 100% same common beliefs. And I thought it was nice that it wasn't kind of being like, those are wrong decisions. Do you see why you're making those decisions?
Yeah, for sure. I'd absolutely feel like it did that, and it didn't. Like it was specifically was it the fireman, guy, the African American guy,
Coulter's,
who rescued him. You know, like he said it straight up, like, I don't believe in God, you know, like but he had something happen to him that was like he couldn't explain, you know, and he was trying to, like, you know, he was trying to make sense of it, and
right.
And I don't necessarily feel like we left the film with him like a 180, like he's like going to church every Sunday now. I mean, he did go to the church in the last shot.
It was more of an invitation.
They were honoring him, but you know, I felt like we with that character, he still, I'm sure, had his doubts, and he still wasn't, you know, didn't know what to believe, but it was okay. You know, it wasn't like this film was trying to like showcase all the believers, and if you weren't a believer, it's going to turn you into a believer by the end of it. I think it was just saying that something so remarkable and astounding happened that even the people that were non-believers, like, they can't even make sense of it, and it just causes them to question a little bit maybe some of their thoughts that they had, you know, a bit about religion, about God, however you want to say it. So yeah, I mean, you know, I did appreciate that.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing, Ruben? And you know what, too, and I do want to say that, because I've seen my fair share of like faith-based films, and you know, I've seen some like just bad ones, like they have not been good. And I feel like this was one of the better ones, and it was kind of reminding me, what was I gonna say? It was reminding me of like the Tyler Perry, like, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Like, I feel like in my mind, like, if you're talking like faith-based films, I feel like that was like one of the best ones, because it was secular enough to, like, I mean, you didn't really know. It was one of those films you didn't know it was gonna be about God, but it just kind of ended up being about God. Or kind of like, right. Or even like, you know, like The Shack, like, I remember I didn't know that was going to be like a quote unquote God film. It just, it turned into that. But it wasn't trying to like preach to you the whole film. Like, it just was a film about God. And so I kind of got the same vibe here. Like, it was, I mean, I feel like definitely God was like one of the main topics, but I feel like the main chunk of the story was just the survival of this boy and how he defied the odds. So I feel like they were, you know, like making that the main focus. I feel like that was smart, and, you know, and not trying. And that's why I said I appreciate them showing the rescue, them showing the doctors and the EMTs, like, trying to keep him alive. Like, I feel like that was vital for this story to be, you know, as told in a certain way, you know, that's easily, I guess, digestible for a broad audience.
I think
feel like
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. And one of the things that I also kind of a nice surprise, I actually like the music for the most part on the movie. Like the soundtrack they put together, I think kind of went well. I don't think it kind of like it wasn't like placed just to have like a song, you know. I think a lot of it was just kind of just helping to set the tone. I thought that was nice. I didn't like the outside singing together scene.
I didn't either. I did not like that for a different reason.
I was really hoping that the characters in the hospital were going to be like, what? Like, I really wish that they weren't just going to stop it because they couldn't hear. But yeah,
that was a very Kumbaya moment, like
Yes.
a very Hallmark Channel moment. I was like, oh god, like, and you know, I keep saying, like, maybe I probably should have looked into like what really happened because I'm like, maybe that did happen. Who knows? You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they really did.
You're not
you
supposed to question it. Isn't that what we say? We're not supposed to.
That's right. That's true. But yeah, I didn't like that scene because she was singing that song Oceans, which is one of my favorite songs, and they had it's a song in the trailer, and I thought that at some point we were going to hear that song, but we didn't hear the original song through the film, so we heard her singing it, and I was like, girl, bye. I just wasn't feeling it. It was a sweet little moment, I guess, but
I just to me that scene and a lot of the school scenes just were not working for me. I don't know what it was. It's just a lot. A lot of it felt, and maybe I'm just out of touch. Maybe, you know, I'm well past years of being able to remember how school was or something. But I just feel like it still wasn't a realistic take on school. And this was 2015, so it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't
like back in the day or anything.
And yeah, I just felt like it was still kind of like movie school where you're intentionally gonna have a bully. You're intentionally gonna have a love interest. You're intentionally have a friend or two. So I don't know. It just wasn't working for me.
Could have been a little more realistic, I guess.
Yeah,
the school scenes and the school setting.
Like just when they found out that he was alive, and like everyone was running around, and it was like almost like a celebration.
And then they announced it on the PA system, like John is awake, and like the whole school erupted in like applause. You know, like you know.
Watch this really happen.
I know, right? That's what I'm afraid of. That's what I'm afraid of. Like all these things really did happen.
And I mean, even if it did happen, I just feel like the movie. No, I feel like the movie still has the kind of ability to make this be a little bit more understanding or like film it in a better way. Like I feel like you still can interpret this right and not just like get loose with it. You know, I feel like this.
It was just very Hallmarky the way it was done.
Yeah,
like, it wasn't I mean,
it wasn't. It wasn't what.
If they would have kept that scene fine, just like film it differently or like
exactly.
You know, add some things different to make it more realistic, like that it really did happen, and not that it's just like we're watching. You know. Right,
exactly, a Hallmark movie.
Hallmark
so
movie.
It's the question.
Hallmark's gonna come after us. I keep throwing them under the bus.
So someone's like, I love Hallmark movies. No, so yeah, it's more so on the question of how they filmed the scene, more so than the accuracy that we're doubting.
Yeah, exactly.
But any other particular scenes that stood out to you, Donnie?
I mean, where do I begin? No, I really liked. I mean, the whole movie. You know, like I said, I really liked the whole movie. I did enjoy it.
So do you like Hallmark movies?
And I was kind of joking about this last night, like with the end scene. When I was, you know, because I was like the actor who played John is his name, right? I was like, he could have brought a little more emotion to this scene in particular, but just when he was like, when the pastor had invited him and his family up on stage, and he was just telling everyone like, you know, thank you guys for your prayers and this and that. And I don't know why, you know, I don't know why I was brought back. I don't know why, but all I know is like I woke up and I saw my mom there, and that I did like I got emotional on that, you know, because it was so endearing, you know, and it was just like, you know, I mean it's already hard for teenagers. You don't want to like emote in front of people, you know, especially like with your mom, but like he was just so, I think, overwhelmed by like the whole situation, and like. He knew exactly, you know, the endless amount of love his mother had for him. So he was like, you know, to say that on stage in front of everyone, it was moving. So I'd probably say that scene I liked, even though it was cheesy, but I did like it. I like cheesy, so.
So you do like Hallmark movies?
I've liked a few. I'm not gonna lie.
The one thing that comes to mind that I think was kind of, I don't want to say it was like a good scene or anything, but I do think the moment he falls in and how it becomes an immediate like concern, like the way the firefighters respond, the way the police react, I really felt like that was really well done, because it really showcases also the importance of not doing these kind of, activities that can really be
idiotic things.
Yeah. So I really like that it felt like it was just like they took that moment serious, and it wasn't just like, oh, there's just little kids playing in the background. Like they really were just like, no, you're gonna die. We have to save them now. I felt the urgency, and I really liked that. And I know, like when John fell in, I know it was happening. I've seen the trailer like the 17 times I've seen the trailer. Like I knew it was happening, but yet the sound, the loud sound of him cracking through, still got me. I still jumped. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. I was like,
did you see that?
Did everyone see that? Oh my God. Is this what this movie's about? Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I thought that like part was well done as well.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, Donnie, what is your score for Breakthrough?
Well,
so you don't like Hallmark movies?
No, I honestly no. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. I think it was the message. I mean, we always say this. It's hard to judge a movie when it's. I'm getting emotional. Sorry. Yes. Amen. But no, I think it was an inspirational story, of something that remarkable that did happen. And, aside from all the cheesiness and, like the corniness of it, which it definitely did have, but it also had, some really tender moments. And I thought the acting was, specifically if we're talking about the mom, what's her name again?
Chrissy Metz.
Chrissy Metz. I thought she was phenomenal.
You can see her currently on This Is Us.
She was great in this film. And I think the cast all together, the supporting cast was good and worked well together and had good chemistry. And I think it was just a feel good movie. Obviously, well, not the best movie ever, but some of the things we were questioning, like, did this really happen, or is this just movie magic here? But I did like it, and I'd say a solid 2.5.
Okay, I'm gonna be just a little bit kinder, and I think I'm gonna give this just to Chrissy Metz. That's giving it just a little bit of bump, but I really feel like she helped elevate this movie in the sense that you cared for her son because you saw how much she cared for him. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I want to say 3.0. No, I wanted to say 3.0, but I don't know why I keep adding the 0.0. But a 3 out of 5. I thought she was probably the standout of this movie. If you're a fan of her, this is a movie you should see. And it just really it is an interesting story overall. But I think she does a well job of carrying the weight of how this really impacts you. And I'm not gonna lie, this movie did a satisfying job where you kind of think about maybe your own family, or if you wish to have your own family with your own kids, these kind of things that you might have to prepare yourself for, things that are unexpected and you have to deal with. So I thought it did a nice touch on that. I was thinking about that. Judging me? No, well, I mean not die, but like
you gotta get ready.
Not that your kids are gonna die, but that an unexpected accident can happen, that kind of thing. Not that they're going to be on the brink of dying, but maybe your kid was playing soccer and he breaks his leg, and now you have to deal with, those things. Those kinds of what I was going for, like just unexpected accidents.
Yes.
But yeah, so 3 out of 5 is going to be my score. So hopefully everyone that listened to this episode, if you've seen it, hopefully you're on par or maybe with what me and Donnie had, or if you thought completely different, better or worse, we would love to hear why. You can always just let us know. And hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for tuning into this episode. Until next time.
Thank you, guys. God bless.